My fellow Saint Lucians, as of today, February 2nd, Saint Lucia has recorded a total of 1,470 cases of COVID-19 since March. We have 749 active cases. We have conducted a total of 24,855 PCR tests. We've recorded 16 COVID-related deaths. I continue to extend my condolences and sympathies once again with all the families affected by this virus. The past year has been a true test of our resilience. As a nation, we've all been called to make sacrifices and adopt new practices to protect ourselves, like wearing a face mask, physical and social distancing, and sanitizing our hands as often as possible. Due to the economic impact, some of our brothers and sisters, both here and abroad, have unfortunately lost their jobs and are forced to adjust to a new way of living. These challenges and unknowns when it comes to COVID keep testing our resolve, but we must keep fighting. Added to this fight is the introduction of the British variant, and understandably, the latest development has caused concern amongst our people. However, as we've been advised by the CMO, though this strain is more contagious, it has not proven to be more deadly. COVID has impacted almost every organization and institution in Saint Lucia. Our frontline workers, our schools, our private sector, and of late, our correctional facility. I want to assure all Saint Lucians that the situation at Bordelais is being addressed by our local authorities. I want you to know I fully understand your concerns. I remind you of the promise I made at the very beginning of this pandemic. It was a promise that in all that we do as a government to fight this virus, the health and safety of you, the people, will always be our main focus or objective, and that will never be compromised. As our cabinet makes decisions in the best interest of citizens, we've always been guided by the Ministry of Health and have been working closely with the National Emergency Management Advisory Committee, otherwise known as NEMAC, and a wide range of stakeholders. Over the past 10 days, in order to reduce the spread of COVID-19, we've once again scaled back on activities. Our first wave of COVID-19 was a major test for us, and we succeeded in keeping these numbers down. In working together as a people, we were also able to manage the second wave of COVID-19 in October, November. And now, we're experiencing our third wave, as the month of January saw new COVID cases were 3 times that there were in December. The rapid increase in this short space of time has put additional strain on our health systems, as happened all over the world. The latest protocols I will announce today are an example of our commitment to ensuring we keep things under control and save lives. I ask St. Lucians to continue to work with us. Our country will go back to a state of emergency effective Wednesday, the 3rd February 2021, for an initial period of 7 days. This will allow us to further restrict movement with a curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. effective Wednesday, the 3rd of February. The COVID-19 Act is being amended to reduce operation hours for businesses' operations to coincide with this curfew. Visitors to Saint Lucia will now require a PCR test within 5 days of arrival rather than the 7 days. Supermarkets will remain open. Let me state again, supermarkets and pharmacies will remain open. So there's no need to panic buy. Essential services will also be allowed to operate. The full list will be published in the revised statutory instrument on www.covid19response.lc. Today's decisions were not taken lightly, as we know it will be an inconvenience to all of you. Saint Lucia's history has shown that our government has always faced challenges head-on. Our social and economic policies have always been tailored to positively impact the people of Saint Lucia. And we've proven time and time again that we can manage well in times of adversity. It is because of this wealth of experience within our cabinet that we were able to respond so quickly to the health and economic fallout of COVID. In preparation for the pandemic, we fully operationalized OKEU Hospital and converted the VH into a respiratory hospital specific for COVID. We purchased equipment to create capacity for our in-country testing. We reached out to the Cuban government and recruited 113 Cuban medical professionals. We set up COVID-19 quarantine facilities initially at no cost to the returning nationals. In the early stages of COVID, we mobilized and delivered over 10,000 food and care packages to the most vulnerable, and we launched a feeding program to get thousands of hot meals to the elderly and differently abled. This provided much needed market to our farmers. By April 2020, we launched our social stabilization plan to help the persons who have completely lost their income and the more vulnerable persons in our society. Income support was provided through the National Insurance Corporation to the tune of over 70 million, while non-NIC contributors received almost 8 million in payouts. Under this program, we also started the normal Christmas barrel early. We started the normal Christmas barrels early, and we just announced an extension of the concessions until March. By July, when we had a clear picture of the longevity and the impact of the pandemic, we launched the Economic Recovery and Resilience Plan with a very broad array of targeted strategies to mitigate the impact of COVID. We're helping 11,000 households with their electricity bill payments. We are fast-tracking fiscal incentives for local businesses. We've made special funding available through the SLDB for new and existing businesses. Earlier on, when we recognized the sharp decline in global travel, large segments of our economy had to be shut down, and we had limited revenue collection. We had to act immediately. We held discussions with the banking sector to provide relief in the form of moratoriums on the payments of loans and mortgages. I am happy to report that hundreds of Saint Lucians took advantage of these facilities. When the pandemic broke out at the beginning of 2020, Saint Lucia was trending in a positive direction. Our unemployment rate was down to 16.8%. Among our greatest achievements was bringing down the stubborn statistics on youth unemployment from an average rate of almost 40% in 2016 to 31% by 2019. Our tourism arrivals had hit a record high. Our agriculture and manufacturing industries were on the rise. Generally, we were again reporting steady economic growth. And even our debt to GDP ratio was approaching the 60% target we were aiming for by 2030. Investment in Saint Lucia was on the rise, and we had managed to attract new and exciting businesses. There is no denying that our success in reopening and our survival was due to the foundation government had put in place for Saint Lucia. Despite the economic downturn, our government has never missed payroll. We've met our debt commitments. We've coped with the shocks, managed the finances of this country responsibly, and we're able to fund the unanticipated spiraling cost associating with COVID. The funding we have received from the international and regional development agencies has gone towards budget support, which includes funding for recurrent expenditures, including salaries, and to cover the additional cost of the following: the supply of respiratory masks for the treatment of COVID-19, the purchase of reagents for testing and surgical masks and bodysuits for the physicians and healthcare workers, the supply of personal protection equipment, PPE, airfares, lodging and accommodation for the Cuban Medical Brigade, comprising of doctors and nurses who assisted in the initial stages of the response and are still here, materials and equipment for testing, broadening and lodging of persons in quarantine and isolation centers, boarding and lodging of persons who provide support during the period, retrofitting of the Victoria Hospital for conversion to a respiratory hospital, retrofitting our other medical facilities, and the refurbishment of the arrival hall at the airports, provision of a $1,500 stimulus to over 5,000 Saint Lucians, provision of funds to SLDB and the Bell Fund to on-lend to the small businesses. As we continue to manage this pandemic, the costs will continue to rise. I know a lot of you are still suffering, but our country is coming back, and we must stay the course. Our tourism industry is back on the rebound. Leading into January 2021, over 5,000 hospitality workers, over 1,000 taxi drivers, tour company operators had returned to work. This was due to the fact that Saint Lucia led the way in strict protocols we put in place for arrivals and our global advocacy for pre-testing. I share your concerns as visitors come in from high-risk countries. However, I want to reassure you that we continue to monitor, change and adjust our protocols to keep you safe. You may remember that we took a phased approach to the reopening of the tourism sector, recognizing that we also needed airlift to facilitate the return of our own nationals and for our citizens who had to travel abroad for their special medical treatment, not available in Saint Lucia. We also had to keep our borders open to allow much needed medical supplies to come in and to facilitate technical and medical support. For example, the Cuban Medical Brigade. In terms of the visitors, we put in the strictest protocols. Our policy is that when they come, they stay in their hotels and are not allowed to roam around and mingle, because the safety of our people will always remain paramount. After much consultation and adjustments of the protocols, we only allowed visitors out of their bubble on the organized COVID-certified proved tours. They were not allowed to venture out nor rent vehicles and drive around. In keeping with ensuring your safety, we pulled back on these protocols and suspended all tours for the last 10 days. One of the strategies we've employed throughout the past year in dealing with the effects of COVID is that of regular consultation with stakeholders. Our decision to keep our borders open was made in consultation with the SLHTA, airlines and other tourism sector agencies, and of course the Ministry of Health, and with good reason. The people who work in the hotels want to work and to take care of themselves and their families. All other people involved in the tourism sector, from restaurants to suppliers of goods and services, have been consulted, and they approved our protocols in keeping this vital sector open. If it gets to the point where we see that the risk to Saint Lucians is too great and will put their health and safety at risk, we'll have no hesitation in shutting down again. We understand the anxiety of parents, students and teachers about the impact of the pandemic on the education system. It is clear that the situation is very fluid and unpredictable. As such, we cannot be definitive about opening schools. The decisions that we are taking in this sector are, again, the decision we take about this sector because we care for the safety of the students and the teachers. What we do from here on will depend on our infection rates and whether we will be able to bring them down while also maintaining a level of stability in our transmission rates. In the meantime, we're moving ahead to expand our e-books program. I'm so happy to report we have distributed 3,000 e-books at the secondary schools, and I'm even more excited to say that we have another 5,000 units that are already on island to be distributed over the next 2 weeks. The Ministry of Education will provide the public with additional information on the e-learning plans in due course. The Ministry is also making provision for fifth formers and those students who are writing the CXCs and common entrance have access to both virtual and physical classrooms in a safe setting. In terms of the vaccine, I have some good news to report. The government was proactive in seeking vaccine options and became a member of COVAX. We've received official confirmation from the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, of the allocation of 74,000 doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine ahead of schedule. The estimated time of arrival is mid to late February 2021. The Ministry of Health has prepared the plan for dissemination in a three-phased approach commencing the first week of March 2021. The vaccine will be free of charge and on a voluntary basis. Officials of the Ministry of Health shall be providing further updates and guidance to the public as we prepare for the introduction of the COVID-19 vaccine. I understand the concerns of some citizens may have about the vaccine. However, we ensure that everyone has adequate and accessible information in order to make the best decision for yourself. As with everything else, I assure you, we are going to cross this bridge together. Also wish to inform Saint Lucians of the new testing protocols for easier access for those who fell ill and the need to be tested. Antigen tests will be used for screening in high-risk settings and workspaces. Training on antigen testing began today. Exit tests for travelers will be facilitated at private laboratories. Mass testing will be introduced to increase population coverage. In light of increasing cases and community spread, 2 additional wellness centers will be used as testing sites, one in the south and one in the north. To reduce the backlog and burden on the laboratory, the forensic lab will be receive samples from 2 of the largest facilities, Vieux-Fort and Gros-Islet polyclinics. And nationals will also have the option of testing at private laboratories. I want again to pay tribute to the health workers and others in various departments in both the public and private sectors who've been leading the fight against COVID-19. I thank you for your support of the difficult decisions. I thank you for your continued support to the Minister and Ministry of Health and the Command Center for standing with our Chief Medical Officer. I thank NEMAC and all the stakeholders for your continuing guidance and counsel, and you continue to participate in our various consultations. To all our frontliners, contact tracers, and all engaged directly in the fight against COVID-19, we have yet to have a holiday. You are forever my superheroes. Saint Lucia, throughout all this sacrifice and adjustments to our lives, I can say without a doubt, I am truly proud of our people. Later this week, I will be addressing the nation ahead of the launch of our 42nd Independence Anniversary celebrations. As this year's theme suggests, we are a resilient nation, and by following the protocols, we are protecting ourselves and our families. And as we head into independence, we must remember that wearing our mask is a reflection of our patriotism and our love for our country. Let's keep working to beat the real enemy, COVID-19. Saint Lucia, I know we can do, and I know that we will do this. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless our island, Saint Lucia. At this time, I would like to ask the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Philippe Despierre, to address us. Thank you, sir.
This is Philippe Despierre, the leader of the opposition and leader of the Saint Lucia Labour Party. First of all, I want to express my condolences to all those who lost their lives because of this COVID pandemic, and also to express my concern and empathy with those in isolation or those under quarantine. It cannot be easy to be isolated from your loved ones, and it can't be easy either for you not to be able to attend your friends and families to attend the funeral ceremony for your loved ones. But having said so, I must tell you that our party has always been in favor of following the professional and scientific advice as it relates to the handling of the COVID crisis. We've always said that we have to be driven by the science and the professional advice. In this regard, we have supported the government in the protocols that have been verified by science and professionals. We believe that the COVID crisis is a pandemic that affects the world and Saint Lucia. Hence the reason why last week, I spoke of a 7-point plan where I made some suggestions that the government of Saint Lucia can follow, and our party stands ready to discuss with the government these 7 points, which we believe can help to mitigate against the onslaught of COVID in the country. We also feel that this time is a time when the country must be spoken to, and the country must be told the truth to engender trust in what is said. We have to be led by the science and by the professionals who know by experience and by knowledge the best things to do to mitigate against COVID. We also hope that in the vaccinations that will take place, my party fully endorses the use of the vaccinations, but we've heard that there is a plan by the Ministry of Health, but that we sincerely hope that plan is distributed with equity. If we have to go from the experience of what has happened, we are not sure that all Saint Lucians, particularly all Saint Lucians, will be exposed and have equal opportunity to be vaccinated. We hope that the vaccinations are going to be done on a scientific and professional basis and not based on any other criteria. Finally, I want to tell Saint Lucians to follow the protocols. I know it's a great sacrifice to be under quarantine, even a greater sacrifice to have a curfew, but it is necessary for the well-being and the advancement of the country, because our party believes that the people of Saint Lucia must come first, and every action must be aimed at improving the lives and the livelihoods of the people of Saint Lucia. I thank you very much, and I thank Saint Lucia, and I understand that we are under tremendous pressure, but I think that our people are resilient and our people are doing their best in these circumstances, but we need to have proper guidance from the professionals and the science so that together we can mitigate the COVID pandemic. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre, Leader of the Opposition. At this point, I would like to ask my colleague, Dr. Gail Rigobert, the Minister of Education, to give some supporting comments to the situation in education.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Good evening, colleagues, sister agencies. Good evening, Saint Lucia. Saint Lucians, we are all new to this. We are living through unprecedented times due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the last 9 months or so, we have had to respond to many challenges. In the education sector, where we are responsible for over 25,000 young minds, we have had to dig deep. Thanks to the unwavering support and commitment of stakeholders, we have been able to navigate through this extraordinary period. In the last few weeks, and particularly over the past 4 days, my colleagues at the Ministry and I have met with many stakeholders, including the National Student Council Executive, the Executive of the National Principals Association, and the Executive of the Saint Lucia Teachers Union, among other sister agencies and stakeholders. Our promise to ensure minimum disruption to the educational experience of our children is one that is shared by many of our partners and stakeholders. We have received letters of concern from school boards, parents, other organizations. We have engaged interested parties, and the sentiment is that given the recent information shared by the Ministry of Health and what appears to be community spread, it would be best to suspend face-to-face teaching at this time. The administrative and legal process will take a day or so, and therefore the effective date is Thursday, February 4th, 2021. We are so grateful to all who have worked tirelessly to cater to the needs of our teachers, students, and we are grateful to our ancillary staff who are our frontliners in this fight against COVID-19 as well. We have listened. We care for the safety of our students, teachers, and other workers in the sector. We will, therefore, revert to online learning, and you would have heard that we are in receipt of a further 4,000 or more devices, some of which will be handed over tomorrow, and also MiFi devices, honoring our commitment to ensuring that more students are adequately equipped with devices and learn books, and the learn books themselves contain the CXC curricula. The MiFi devices will come with at least 1 year of free data to allow for greater connectivity. We anticipate further donations of devices from the Global Partnership of Education, and that will be done through the OECS Commission here in Saint Lucia. We have also been in conversation with other agencies who have been able to carve out resources from existing programs or projects to furnish our students with even more devices to ensure that our children are not caught on the hard shoulder. I wish to thank the Minister for Finance and Prime Minister, colleagues, for making this a priority. I wish to thank our partners in the international community, UNICEF, USAID, Global Partnership for Education, our own regional agency, the OECS Commission. Thank you so much. I want to thank the students with whom I spoke yesterday. Thank you for your boldness. Thank you for that great representation You were able to deliver on behalf of your membership, the students. You were able to convey their concerns. And I thank you for that fruitful exchange. I will remind you what we agreed to yesterday. You are our core business. Young people are our core business. And that is why your voice matters so much. You know, through our actions, our policy positions, the extent to which we've been able to match our actions and rhetoric. Please be assured that we care. That is why when a school board writes, that is why when we meet with the executive of the Teachers Union, that is why when we meet with the executive of the National Principals Association, that is why when parents contact us, either through the respective principals, district education offices, or come to the ministry in person, we continue to show that we care. We care because we recognize that we are all in this together. We can and we will combat COVID-19 for our sake and the sake of our little ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. At this point, I would like to also ask my other colleague, Minister Mary Isaac, the Minister of Health, to share some words with you.
Good day, fellow St. Lucians. Citizens, fellow St. Lucians, I'm here to tell you and to remind you that we care. It is because we care that you have just heard from our Prime Minister, the Honorable Alan Michael Chastanet. It is because we care that you hear from our CMO on a daily basis. Since the beginning of this pandemic, you have been kept updated throughout. We have established protocols that will keep you safe if you follow them. My government has done all in its power to keep all of us safe. But here we are today with around 800 positive cases of COVID-19. I am so proud of our frontline workers who work tirelessly every day to keep us safe. But we are really doing them a disservice when today we look at the number of positive cases that we are confronted with. Fellow St. Lucians, we have dropped the ball. And it is all of us that have dropped the ball, in spite of all the hard work of the staff of the Ministry of Health, our CMO, our government, our frontline workers. We, the citizens of this country, we have dropped the ball. And now is time for us to roll back and pick it up again so that we can start all over. Because we have to get this spike under control. Fellow citizens, we can do this. All we have to do is wear our mask. This is the very first step in keeping all of us safe. Today, I am wearing a mask that is made by the staff of the Taiwan Embassy, because I have been having a lot of issues with different masks that I've been wearing. The surgical mask is having a terrible impact on my face. All the other cloth masks that I have tried, they are having a terrible impact. However, I am not going to say that I will not wear the mask just because of that. I rather have something on my face, I rather have reactions on my face than be dead. Therefore, I am asking you, I'm hearing all these people who have all kinds of excuses for not wearing the mask. I am saying to you, you are not alone. I feel sorry for your cause, but we do not have an alternative right now. So we need you to wear your mask, because you are giving this country, the workers in this country, the workers at the Ministry of Health, a lot of unnecessary work to do as a result of your not wearing your mask. So I am here today to say to you again, to remind you, and I am going to continue to do that, to tell you wear your mask. I want to thank the staff and the ambassador, the Taiwanese ambassador, for this mask that they have made for me, because I have been able to keep it on all day. So thank you very much, and I am going to share that simple technology with other St. Lucians as well, who may have problems with their mask, so that they will know how to make a mask that may be able to solve their problems. But we all have to wear the mask. Taiwan has about 25 million people, and right now they only have about 800 positive cases. We do not even have 250,000 people. And we have almost the same number of cases as this huge country. So think about it, St. Lucians. Think about the people who are saying that COVID-19 does not exist, or it is a hoax, or it is not true. Think about that. 170,000 people. We ought to be able to keep our country and our fellow citizens safe from COVID-19. We have heard that the vaccine is going to be unrolling, and the Prime Minister has given a lot of information on that, and in the coming days you will get more information from the Ministry of Health, the CMO, so that you can follow. I know that there is a lot of skepticism about the vaccine. Many people do not trust it. Many people have a lot of, concerns about the vaccine. But by the time the vaccine gets to you in St. Lucia, I believe that a lot of these concerns will have been washed away or will erode, because you are going to understand how this vaccine came into being, how it is that we have it in St. Lucia, and the amount of safety precautions that everyone has taken to ensure that you will be getting a vaccine that is very safe. I am asking you now, please protect your loved ones by wearing your mask, sanitizing or washing your hands, distancing, covering your cough or sneeze. If you have fever, if you feel sick, if you lose your sense of taste or smell, please see your physician, see your doctor. When you are asked or told to quarantine, please do so. Those who are asked to isolate, please do so. I know it is not easy, but it is what we have to do at the moment for us to keep our other citizens, our loved ones, and our country safe. Be your brothers and your sisters' keeper. It is better to do the right thing and be wrong than not to do the right thing and be wrong. COVID is not written on anyone's face. Since we do not know the other person's status, let us be cautious and wear our mask, because this is the only way we will get rid of COVID-19. We care, and we need you to start caring. Stay safe, my friends, fellow St. Lucians, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Minister Isaac. I also want to indicate at Cabinet today, the Ministry of Health submitted the protocols on vaccinating, and so now that has been approved along with the budget, a public announcement on those protocols will be made by the Ministry of Health very soon. And I can assure everyone that this will be a transparent and very fair process. At this time, I would like to invite the President of the Chamber of Commerce, Karen Fontenelle, to speak. Thank you.
The Saint Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture has maintained a keen interest in the ongoing effects and management of the coronavirus and its impact on the people and the economy of Saint Lucia. The significant spike in the number of persons being infected is indeed extremely worrying. We are encouraged by the consultative approach adopted in charting a way forward to arrest the rate of infection in St. Lucia. We have consulted and heard from the medical experts, and we have learned from not only our experience last year, but from the available literature and best practice promoted by the International Chamber of Commerce. We have consulted very broadly with our members and understand their concerns and their need for clarification of a number of issues. The entire business community has been negatively affected by this pandemic and continue to be. Businesses across the board will continue to suffer in this coming period. As a chamber, we will continue to represent members and their genuine interests. Our members recognize the invaluable contribution of their team members to the success of their businesses. Our members also understand that the safety and well-being of team members and customers must remain in the forefront. Thus, we wish to say that we support the steps being taken by the government to address the backlog in testing and provision of results to persons. We note the efforts to procure a technician from Trinidad and Tobago to make additional equipment functional, the hiring of additional administrative staff to support the work of the lab, and the decision to divert testing for tourists to private labs, thus easing pressure on the public facilities. And we must continue to look for ways to improve this even further wherever possible. We note the decision to once again utilize excess capacity in hotels to ensure an effective quarantine and isolation strategy and ease the burden on the respiratory hospital. These steps will help in reducing congestion at that facility and better control the movement of persons awaiting results. Based on our consultation and information at our disposal, the Saint Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture wishes to indicate that we support the implementation by government of additional and more stringent restrictions on movement of citizens for a stated period to control and minimize the spread of the COVID-19 virus. The Chamber supports the extension and further limiting of non-essential commercial activity during that period, aimed at limiting non-essential movement of people. We also look forward to more assertive police enforcement of all law related to the COVID-19 virus. We are equally convinced that if proper implemented and recommended protocols faithfully followed, this will be in the best long-term interests of business, citizens, and the economy. We note that government has given consideration to the supply chain linkages that have to be maintained to ensure the essential services are able to deliver the expected services. On the matter of introducing a curfew, the Saint Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, in keeping with its position that we will support measures aimed at arresting the spread of COVID-19 on island, we support the introduction of a state of emergency with adequate notice that will permit the enactment of curfew laws. We ask parliamentarians to lend their support to this measure when it comes before Parliament in due course. In closing, we support the introduction of more stringent restrictions, introduction of state of emergency, the introduction of curfew, more assertive police and wardens enforcement of the laws. The Saint Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture take this opportunity to remind the people of Saint Lucia of the business community's unwavering support, and we will continue to work with all partners in this fight against COVID-19. I thank you.
I want to thank the President of the Chamber of Commerce, and if she can please extend the gratitude of the government to your membership for your continued support. And I may say that your free speech at our meetings, and that this is always taken as constructive criticism, and we welcome this additional voice. At this time, I would like to ask the President of the Saint Lucia Medical and Dental Association, Dr. Merle Clark, to speak.
That's incorrect. evening. Good evening, fellow Saint Lucians. We are here at a point where we have an unprecedented spike in the number of cases of COVID-19. We at the Saint Lucia Medical and Dental Association, our aim, in essence, is to protect lives. We've been here with you from the beginning, and we will continue to be here with you. My fellow Saint Lucians, we urge you to mask up. It is imperative that we do take heed of the protocols which are in place to continue to protect lives. We have lost 16 precious Saint Lucian lives. That is 16 lives too many. We all need to do our part. Stop the spread. Saint Lucians, let's wash our hands. Let us continue to adhere to the protocols as we've said before. We need to unite at this point by staying apart. We're still getting too many reports of social gatherings. At this point, we really cannot be gathering. We have to protect each other. We must protect our families, our friends, our loved ones. We've done this before, and we can do it again. The enemy is a virus. It is not each other. Let us come together, Saint Lucians, and protect one another. To my fellow frontliners, particularly the staff of the respiratory hospital, Drs. Giffard, Dr. Chico, Dr. Jaria, and so many others, Dr. Mathre, we say thank you. We know it's been a tough few weeks and understand that we stand in solidarity with you. To the staff of the respiratory clinics, Dr. Ferdinand, Dr. Morel, and so many others at the 5 respiratory clinics around the island, we also stand in solidarity with you. We as a Medical and Dental Association understand the need to help where help is needed. And as such, we've advocated for the redeployment of staff from where it is not necessary as such, but from where it is where it's most needed, which is currently at the respiratory clinics and at the respiratory hospital. Help is on the way. Saint Lucians, we urge you to continue the fight. There is hope on the horizon with the advent of vaccines. The rollout, we promise that our advocacy will ensure that there is equitable rollout of the vaccine and that every Saint Lucian who wants the vaccine will be able to get it. We understand that there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy, and we urge you, fellow Saint Lucians, to get your information from credible sources. The vaccines are safe. We have been liaising with our colleagues in the US and Canada and the UK, for example, who have received the vaccines. Nobody has had the reactions that you hear so much about. No medication, no vaccine, no drug is 100% safe, but for the most part, those vaccines have proven to be. This is the only way, along with the measures that have been put in place, that we are going to return to some sense of normalcy. Soldiers, I urge you to mask up, to stay apart, to unite by staying apart. We can indeed win this war, but we have to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clark. And again, on behalf of the government, but more importantly, the citizenry of this country, I want to thank your members for the volunteering of their time to go to many of our clinics when we're understaffed. And I know that these efforts are not always seen by everyone, but certainly we have seen them and we appreciate it. At this point, I'd like to invite the president of the Saint Lucia Hotels Association, Caroline Trubiscoy, to speak.
Saint Lucia, good evening, Prime Minister. Let me please begin by extending heartfelt condolences to the families grieving for their loved ones lost to COVID-19. And I'm doing so on behalf of the tourism and accommodation services providers who make up the membership of the Saint Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association. These are very trying times for all of us, and our tourism industry is doing everything we can to support as many team members and their families as possible. We are mindful of the devastating effect COVID-19 has had on our country. Since we reopened to visitors in July 2020, the majority of our COVID-19 certified hotels and tourism services providers have operated with occupancies and business volumes below their break-even point. Despite making losses and not being profitable, these operators were able to employ almost 10,000 persons, and by doing so, preserve the dignity and livelihoods of these workers and their families, while also contributing directly and indirectly to our wider economy. Since July 2020, we have hosted approximately 45,000 visitors, all of whom are required to adhere to very strict protocols. To date, there have only been 53 COVID-positive cases diagnosed that were non-nationals. Our hotel guests continue to have their temperature checked twice daily by professional nurses. Also, visitors who were returning to the UK and Canada in recent weeks and prior to new restrictions being announced in these countries, and now also all visitors returning to the United States, have to have a COVID test prior to departing Saint Lucia. The SLHD further advocates that US carriers please subject passengers to a rapid antigen test prior to boarding the aircraft to Saint Lucia. This, we find, would add another layer of safety to the current requirement of obtaining a PCR test prior to arrival. The SLHDA understands clearly the need for enhanced measures to slow the spread of the virus in our communities. We agree that a zero-tolerance approach is best for our country. From the increase in COVID-positive community numbers over the past few weeks, it is clear that we must do a better job of adhering to the prescribed protocols, wearing our masks, physically distancing from each other, and washing our hands frequently. Unless we each take personal responsibility to do our part, our communities will not be safe from this virus. All of our individual actions matter. This is why it is so important for all of us to cooperate and to understand that only if we do this together, we can get this pandemic under control. In closing, let me please reiterate that the Saint Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association and all of our members are fully committed to supporting every and all efforts which will reduce the spread of COVID-19 and save Saint Lucian lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And again, I want to thank the hoteliers who have remained open and have continued to employ Saint Lucians to be able to help in their bringing necessary revenues to their own home. But more importantly, Madam President, I want to thank the association for assisting the government in making sure that we have flights into Saint Lucia, not only to facilitate the tourists, but even more importantly, to be able to facilitate Saint Lucians, nationals who are living abroad, Saint Lucians who are living here and need to go out for emergency services, and also to be able to maintain the operations of many of the businesses and government here in Saint Lucia when we require technical assistance. At this point, I'd like to invite the President of the Manufacturing Association, Ms. Margaret Daisy.
Leader of the opposition, all the ministers of government, and our business colleagues, and all Saint Lucians. As manufacturers, we will continue to follow the protocols and support the measures to protect lives at our manufacturing operations, as we do not want to compromise safety for profit. As manufacturers, we also support the need to safely remain operational in order to service local demands and also our export markets. To date, we are pleased that none of our plants have had to close due to in-house spread of COVID-19. There have been dialogue with us as stakeholders, and we support the government's proposal to protect lives. We urge persons to also encourage other persons who they are in contact with, especially at home, to follow the protocols, as sadly, one can do everything in their power to follow the protocols themselves. But if their household contacts don't, then they become at higher risk to contact the virus. We will continue to operate our manufacturing plants with safety in mind, so we can remain available to supply food and other products to our people while keeping some persons employed. Again, we support the revised protocol.
Your mic is up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we lost you there, Ms. Daisy, but again, I want to thank the Manufacturing Association for being as resilient and as responsible as they have been. I also want to thank you for the supply and keeping the food chain supply available. And I think that during this period, all of us have learned the importance of having a strong manufacturing sector in St. Lucia. And we want to assure you of the government's continued support to help you grow from strength to strength. At this time, I want to ask the President of the Bankers Association, Ms. Carol Mangal, to say some words.
On behalf of the Bankers Association of St. Lucia, I would like to express our condolences to the families and loved ones of the 16 souls who have departed this earth as a result of COVID-19. COVID-19 has left no stone unturned. We in the financial services sector have been impacted. The health and well-being of our clients and employees have been of paramount importance to us, and as such, where there were COVID impacts, we have taken the necessary action in accordance with the guidance from our health professionals. Each identified COVID positive case amongst our employees results in a number of their colleagues also going into self-quarantine while they await the results of their own COVID-19 PCR tests. We know this has impacted the delivery of in-branch services to you, and we apologize for the inconvenience caused. At the national level, if the recent trend continues unabated, we may get to a point where the contact tracing process will mean that the majority of our employees will have to be quarantined, thereby severely impacting our delivery of service to you. The Bankers Association of St. Lucia therefore appeals to the citizenry to support the authorities by doing your part, adhering to the protocols, wearing your mask, standing 6 feet away from the person in front of you and the person behind you when you are on a queue. Our members will continue to do our utmost to sanitize frequently touched surfaces in an effort to ensure your safety while you are on our premises. We also take this opportunity to remind St. Lucians that a lot of your banking needs can be handled on our online platforms from the comfort of your homes. With the advent of COVID-19, a lot of persons have signed up for the online platform services, but there are still many who need to do the same. Please contact your bank to sign up now. In closing, the Bankers Association of St. Lucia will continue to advocate for persons to stay at home and to stay safe. We are all in this together, and we can do this together. May God bless our nation, St. Lucia. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. I don't even know where to begin to acknowledge the work that the Bankers Association has done for this country. From early in January, when we started to highlight our concerns as a government as to where we were going to go, it was the Saint Lucia Bankers Association that eventually led the way to bring about the unprecedented national moratorium program that not was only rolled out in Saint Lucia, but was rolled out throughout the entire CARICOM region. And it was our Bankers Association that led that charge. St. Lucians, our private sector associations, our civil society has done their part. It's time for us to do our part. Before I give my parting words, I know that Margaret Daisy, the president of the Manufacturing Association, was cut short, and I would like her to conclude with her remarks.
Earlier, we would like to encourage persons to also urge the persons that they are in contact with, especially at home, to follow the protocols. Because sadly, if you might follow all the protocols and the persons at home do not follow the protocols, it then puts you at risk. So as Manufacturing Association, we've been following some very good protocols at the workplace, and so far it has paid off because we've not had to close any of our operations. We also encourage businesses to be responsible and support the government in the cause in terms of fighting the virus. We will continue to operate our manufacturing plants with safety in mind so we can remain available to supply food and other products to our people while keeping some persons employed. Again, we support the revised protocols set by the government, and we are willing and able to do our part as manufacturers to ensure that we as a nation fight this virus together, and we are solution persons and not persons that divide from the cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I want to share a recent news story that came out a couple of days ago, which was the budget of the government of India. What was interesting was that Prime Minister Modi, who has been a champion for small island developing states and underdeveloped countries in the world, declared his budget the year of health and wellness. He also indicated that his country would go and embark upon an unprecedented capital investment program to try to recover the millions of jobs that have been lost during COVID. I bring this up because Saint Lucia, we are on the right track. This government declared last year's budget the year of health before COVID. This government has adopted the policy of coexist with COVID from day one, because we understood that if we allowed COVID to cause us to shut down this country, that the jobs and the suffering that this would have ensued would have been unprecedented. And so therefore, we had to find a way to balance lives and livelihoods. I want to say that education is a very good example. We know from science that kids are actually safer at school than they are at home. We need to appreciate what our young persons have suffered during this process, not being at school. What they have lost in socializing, what they have lost in learning, because some kids have adapted to online learning very easily. and some kids are struggling. This is the cost to our country. Very difficult to recover. So I want to say to all of us tonight, you've heard the message repeatedly. Let's stay strong. Let's stay safe. Let's stay united. Let's keep working to beat the real enemy, which is COVID-19. And Saint Lucia, I know we can, and I know we will. God bless.